All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for being here. As always, I am your host, Brandis P. Bonos. Before we get into the video, I wanted to give you guys a brief update. I said this on my last video, but me and my friend Chuck, we started a podcast called The New Consensus. I'll leave a link to it in the description. And it's a podcast. It's more casual, it's more conversational. And he and I talk about many of the relevant subjects that matter in the current political landscape. So if you guys want to watch that, go click on that link in the description. I would appreciate if you guys subscribe. We posted our most recent video last night, and we'll probably be posting one, if not tonight, then tomorrow. So go subscribe and stay tuned. Before we get into this reaction, the first thing I want to just say is the entire change, this revolution that's taking place on the right wing, the rise of Nick Fuentes, his ascendancy, the rise of Tucker and Candace, this is the time for change. This is the culmination of 25, maybe even more than that, 25, 35, 45, I don't know how long, but decades of terrible policy from the neoconservatives and the neoliberals. And you have the populist right and the populist left that are asking questions about what is this relationship that we have with Israel? Why is everybody on Capitol Hill taking millions of dollars from a special interest group? What's going on with the demographic change? Why are so many of the jobs that once fed Americans being given to foreigners, being outsourced? What's going on with that? And this is the basic idea of America First. People want their country to feel like a coherent nation. Sorry, that's just natural. People want their country to feel like a home, not an opportunity zone, not an economic zone. People don't want their country to feel like a bus terminal where people come and go and take the things that they want and move around and do this and do that and send money back home and hang out for a little bit and then keep their own culture and not assimilate. And no, people want their country to feel like a home. They want their nation to feel like a nation. And when the state no longer serves the interests of the nation, then what is the point of the nation state model to begin with? What are we? How do we define ourselves? What is our identity? We want our country, we want the United States of America as Americans, as members of a nation, to feel like this country belongs to us. We want the Ivy League school positions to go to Americans, not Chinese nationals who want to come here, get a degree from Harvard, and then go back to China and work for China because they're Chinese. We don't want jobs in Silicon Valley to go to Indians from India. We want those jobs to go to Americans. It's a very basic principle. We want the doctrine, the program, the vision of the Trump administration and of the nationalist right wing to actually be fulfilled. We want it to be materialized. We're sick and tired of being slow rolled by these bureaucrats who have been working at the Department of Homeland Security for God knows how long. Mass deportations, a wall, reform DACA, reform the asylum laws, reform the refugee laws, regain our sovereignty from foreign countries. It's a very basic idea. This used to be the norm for every country. You have borders, one nation, one language. People assimilate. People see themselves as America, as a part of a nation. But now this country is being transformed into a playground for the rich. It's being transformed into a colony for foreign governments. It's being transformed into a parking lot for people who just want to come here, park their car, work, and then drive somewhere else. No, this is a nation. This is a home. And that's the thing with America First. The entire idea is nationalism and fighting for a government, a state that supports the nation, that doesn't support special interests, that doesn't support Silicon Valley, that doesn't support the banking interests, that doesn't support foreign governments. It's a very basic idea. And people want to speculate, why is Nick Fuentes so popular? Is it the young men, the crazy, isolated young men who are all secretly Nazis and want to do a Holocaust? Or is it because the cost of living is crazy and we feel like we're growing up in a country with no coherent culture? We feel like we're growing up in a country that isn't a nation, that isn't a home, but is an economic zone for foreigners. We don't have a wall. Why? Why don't we have a wall? Because you have bureaucrats in the deep state, in the permanent government, who are holdovers from the Reagan administration going 40 years back, who have not changed the doctrine, who have not done anything to actually bring about major structural change at the Department of Homeland Security. The neoliberals and the neoconservatives have been basically two sides of the same coin. None of them have made any radical changes with the immigration policy. None of them have made any radical changes in terms of addressing cultural problems. None of them have built a wall. None of them have done mass deportations. None of them have done anything to break up Google, Amazon, Comcast, State Street, Vanguard. None of them have fought against the deep state. None of them have fought against these monopolies. One side wants feminist, LGBTQ plus, girl boss corporatism with some liberal flair to it. And the other side wants, they'll play with the cross, they'll play with the idea of a rural America, 1950s America, but secretly they serve the special interests. This is the neoconservatives. They serve the military industrial complex. They serve foreign governments. We're fighting wars in the Middle East. We've been there for God knows how long. There has been no change. Nobody has stood up and said, we're going to put America first. Trump was the first one who did it, and he failed to materialize it. He hasn't done anything to go after the Ivy League schools. He hasn't done anything, really, to bring back industrialization. He hasn't carried out mass deportations. He hasn't built a wall. He hasn't fought the deep state or reformed it. He hasn't passed any legislation through Congress that would reduce the amount of years a civil servant can work in a senior position at the DHS or at, not DHS, but at ICE or Customs and Border Patrol or at Homeland Security or at the FBI or the CIA or the NSA. It's the same thing. Nothing has fundamentally changed. And the economic situation is getting worse and worse and worse. And we're being told, well, hey, look at the free market. Hey, private property. Hey, GDP, line goes up. The stock market is higher than ever. But who really benefits from that? It's not the American people. It's the people in the boardrooms. Those are the people who benefit from this arrangement, not us. The people who benefit are the people who flood the country with cheap foreign labor to replace Americans. And of course, those are the billionaires, those are the people on Wall Street, usual suspects. The idea of America first is Americans standing up and saying, we're a nation. We're a country. We belong to a history. We belong to a landmass. We belong to a nation, a culture. We're citizens. And that means something. That has gravity to it. And the regime, the political regime, has cheapened what it means to be an American by letting everybody just come here and not assimilate and not appreciate the history of this country. It's not perfect. We can talk about the history, but to let people come here and say, F. Thomas Jefferson, F. Robert Sherman, F. Robert Livingston, F. John Adams, F. George Washington. These men were perfect by no means were they perfect, but they're Americans, or the forefathers, or the framers. They created this country that these people wanted to come to. This country is a home. And the entire idea of America first is that Americans as a nation unite across race, across ethnicity, across even religion, across regions to put Americans first. And sure, you'll have people who want to go live around white people only or black people only or Hispanic people only. They're free to do that. But fundamentally, what this comes down to is completely destroying the status quo, completely annihilating the status quo, and replacing it with something that serves the interests of Americans first. That's the whole proposition, for people to come here and see themselves as Mexican, but also as Americans, as a part of the nation of America, and to fight for the nation of America. That's the proposition. It's a very basic idea. It's nationalism. It's healthy. Because what these people want to do is demoralize our country and tell us, well, America's not the byproduct of a heritage, or America's not, the byproduct of this particular piece of land, this landmass, the Atlantic to the Pacific. America doesn't need America doesn't need closed borders. Anybody can come here. Anybody can walk right in. There is no nation. There is no culture. There are no values. Being American doesn't really mean anything. You just come right in and be born here and say you're an American. Well, we're seeing the fruits of that, and it's not actually all that great. A lot of people hate America. A lot of people hate the founders and the framers. And I am a universalist. I do believe that people can come here and assimilate and become American if they adopt the values, the ideals. We are a universalist country. That is what made America great. That is what makes Western civilization great. Greco-Roman philosophy, Christianity, liberalism, modernity, the Enlightenment. The idea that every single person on this planet has the capacity to self-actualize, to obtain moral truth. The idea that every person on this planet, every man, every creature can attain morality, can attain a higher level of being. It's not limited to your tribe. It's not limited to your religion. It's not limited to your race. It's not limited to your family. It's not limited to your genes. We are a truly universalist civilization. So I do believe people can come here and adopt those values, integrate, love the country, and become a part of the nation of America. Absolutely, I believe that. But a lot of the people who come here en masse don't believe that. And that's kind of the problem. Is it not? Is that not the obvious problem that we're seeing with America? The destruction of our symbols, the destruction of statues, and say what you want about the statues. You don't have to love Thomas Jefferson. You don't have to love George Washington. I'm not the biggest fan of Thomas Jefferson, I'll be honest with you. But I can at least recognize the important role that he played in the history of this country by drafting the Declaration of Independence with Robert Livingston and Roger Sherman and James Madison and John Adams. At the very least, we can recognize that. So this is the idea about America First, uniting on the basis of this landmass, uniting on the basis of that nation, uniting on the basis of that citizenship. And that's it. And having the state put our interests as a nation before any foreign government, before any foreigners, before 600,000 Chinese nationals, before Silicon Valley. Fighting against that and putting us first. It's a very simple prospect. And everybody's so confused. Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Josh Hammer, they're so confused. Why does Gen Z support Fuentes? Why does Gen Z support America First and not Ben Shapiro? Well, the idea is very simple, actually. It's a very simple idea. Ben Shapiro says, if your family has lived in New York for 5, 6, 7 generations, but it's 2025 and cost of living is through the roof and you can't afford it, suck it up, Buttercup. Go move to Nebraska. Go move to Iowa. Go move to Missouri. You're not entitled to live in the same city that you have, or that your family has been living in for several generations. You're not owed that because the free market, because you didn't get the right education, because you don't have the money to afford it. Suck it up, Buttercup. Go somewhere else. He will say that, and then the next show, he'll tell us Americans that we are obligated to send every penny we have to Israel, or to send as much money as we have to Israel, as much money as we can to Israel. Do you know in Israel they have subsidized healthcare? Do you know in Israel they have free college? Do you know that in Israel, they use one fourth, a quarter out of every dollar that we send them in foreign aid to finance their own domestic defense industry, to do research and development on their own aircrafts, to upgrade their own warships, to upgrade their own submarines, to produce more drones? A quarter of every dollar that Americans send to Israel is to finance their own domestic defense industry. And we don't even use their weapons. We don't use their tanks. We don't use their aircrafts. We don't use their missile defense systems. We don't use their ships. We don't use their drones. They are building their own country off of our backs. And what do we get in return? Are they subsidizing our healthcare? No. Are they subsidizing our university tuition? No. Are they helping us fight the invasion at the southern border? No. Israel is not doing that for us. So we are taking care of a foreign government on the basis of Jewish nationalism for them, because that's what they want, and we get nothing in return. So Ben Shapiro will say, you're not entitled to be able to live in the neighborhood that you grew up in if your family's been living there for several generations, but you do have to send your money to pay for Jewish people's healthcare in Israel. You do have to send your money to pay for Jewish people's college education in Israel. Is that not a blatant double standard? If they can't afford it themselves, then they don't get to go to college. If they can't afford it themselves, they don't get healthcare. Sorry, too bad. And this is the fundamental hypocrisy. This is the fundamental contradiction. How can you say you're not entitled to live in the city you were born in? If you can't afford it, you got to move somewhere else. But somehow Israel and the Jewish nation is entitled to free healthcare, to free education, to use our money to supplement and finance their own domestic defense. How does that make any sense? You know, Fuentes brought up something interesting last night. And here's the thing, if you point this out and you say this, oh, well, let's say you're a Hitler supporter or a neo-Nazi or you're a Jew hater, you're a terrible person or you're evil. They'll get you blacklisted, put you on canary mission, say you're a horrible person, say you're scum, you're vile, you're lower than a rat. They'll call you all these sorts of names. Well, you know what? They're the ones who are actually being fascistic by trying to suppress our consciences and lie to us and gaslight us and hit us with propaganda and tell us that we're Nazis for wanting to put our own country first. Well, they're doing that. They're putting the Jewish nation first. They're putting the nation of international Jews before America, which is wrong. And if anything, that is more fascistic than wanting to put America first. That's more Hitler than wanting to put America first. Think about it. And Fuentes said this last night, which was interesting, and I actually agree. What did Hitler say? Hitler said, we are stronger together than apart, like a bundle of sticks. A stick on its own is weak because it can be broken in half. But a bundle of sticks is strong. A bundle of sticks is hard to break. You can't break a bundle of sticks because it's solid, it's firm, it's rigid. Hitler said, we want the Aryan nation to be stuck together like a bundle of sticks. We are one nation, one people, one language, one history. And we want to put ourselves before everybody else. That's what Hitler said with the Aryans. And the Jews said, that's evil, that's hateful, that's Nazi, that's this and that, and you're a Holocaust denier, you're a terrible person, and we can never do that again, and we can never be nationalists because nationalism is Hitlerish. Yet they do the exact same thing. The Jews and Israel are putting the Jews first, the Jewish nation, like a bundle of sticks. They're saying, as one Jew, we are weak, but as many Jews, we are strong. That's why they have the ZOA. That's why they have the World Jewish Congress. That's why they have B'nai B'rith. That's why they have the Friends of Israel and the IDF. All these Jewish organizations. That's why they have the North American Jewish Federation. That's why you have people like Leslie Wexner and Ronald Lauder and Larry Ellison and Paul Singer and Ronald Schwartzman. All the usual suspects who are funneling as much money as they can into advancing the interests of Jews worldwide. Because they're putting the Jewish nation first. They're putting Jews first. They're putting Israel first. Like a bundle of sticks. Now, is that not Hitler? Is that not fascist? That's literally what that is. That is the exact same thing. They're putting the Jews first. They're putting Israel first. And this is not me being anti Semitic. I don't think some random guy who's like a quarter Jewish or half Jewish or even full Jewish who lives in LA is in on this. Of course, that's crazy. But there is a distinct ethnic affinity that does seem to be common amongst these billionaire Jews, like Israel Englander, like Ronald Lauder, Larry Ellison, who's the single biggest donor to the IDF. And he's an atheist Jew and he owns Oracle. And this is just obvious. This is just true. It's just real. It's just a thing that's happening. And they'll hit you with the propaganda and say, you're a terrible person. You're evil. You're this. You're that. They'll lie about you, attack you relentlessly, suppress you, ruin your reputation. But this is the reason why Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens are winning. And it's the reason why they will keep winning. And this is the reason why Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Josh Hammer, Laura Loomer, Officer Tatum, this is the reason why they will keep losing. Because they are not willing to put America first. They're not willing to put Americans first. This has nothing to do at all with the free market and low taxes and the stock market. Nobody cares about that. I don't care about that. I care about fair trade, not free trade. I care about Americans having jobs in this country, not foreigners. I care about Americans going to the Ivy Leagues, not Chinese nationals, not Indian nationals. I care about having a wall at the southern border. I care about fighting off illegal immigration. I care about mass deportations. I care about fighting against gender ideology and woke ideology at Harvard, in the Ivy Leagues. I care about reforming and restructuring the entire administrative state, which is controlled by all these bureaucrats at the Department of Homeland Security, at the FBI, at the Office of Budget Management, at the Office of Legal Counsel, all these sub-agencies at the Department of Education, at the Department of Homeland Security, at the DOJ, who have been screwing our country and preventing any real change because they're so loyal to the institution and continuity and one doctrine than America first. That's what I care about. I don't care about fighting foreign wars in the Middle East for Israel. I don't, actually, at all. And I hope we put an embargo on them and sanction their country, actually. I don't care about fighting for Israel. I don't care about free trade. I care about fair trade, industrial policy. I don't care about the GDP. I don't care about the stock market. I care about people being able to have homes and start families. I don't care about what Ben Shapiro thinks about me saying this, making me a Nazi supporter or a Hitler fan or whatever, because it's not true. It's a lie. And I will not be gaslit. I know who I am and what I am, and I'm not a hateful person. I just want to put America first. That's it. That's the whole idea. And they will use every tactic in the playbook to discredit us. And they will not prevail. They cannot prevail. They will never prevail. We have to put the nation of America first. And that includes Jewish people who are loyal to America first. We have to put the nation first. America first. And no other country first. And if Ben Shapiro and Josh Hammer and Laura Loomer and whoever else and the GOP, if they're not willing to go along with that program, then they'll keep losing. And we'll keep winning and we'll keep getting support until we bring our vision to reality, because it is inevitable. Now, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and switch gears here. We're going to get into the reaction for this Tucker Carlson interview. I've only watched the first few minutes of it, so this is going to be my live reaction. I'm going to give you guys my commentary. And without further ado, hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into it.
The good news is that not all of them are radical. A lot of them are just clear thinking and sensible and decent and committed to universal principles of human rights and decency in that generation. The real surprise here is how moderate a lot of these kids are. You would expect them to be a lot more pissed off, and they will get that way soon. But for right now, most of them are decent people and smart. They know what's up. One of them is called Nayland Haley. We thought a lot before doing this interview, the one we're about to do, because the man we're about to talk to is 24 and is the son of Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, presidential candidate, neocon. And there's really nothing more immoral than using a child against a parent. I've been a consistent and pretty strident opponent of Nikki Haley's views for a long time. And so the idea of interviewing her son, being like, doesn't your mom suck? That's disgusting. And we're never going to do that. And so we had a lot of conversations off camera with him before this interview. And it turns out he really likes his mom a lot and thinks she was a great mother and she's a great person. And he completely disagrees with some of her views, maybe a lot of her views, while still loving her and remaining grateful to her. And that in itself is just such a remarkable model of what this country should be, the way that we should all be, but increasingly are not. And so we were delighted to talk to this man. And I think if you listen carefully, you will think that he has from a young person, one of the clearest explanations for how a lot of young Americans, not just white men, but a lot of young people now currently feel about their leaders, the conservative movement, and where we're going. So with that, Nayland Haley, thank you for doing this.
Yep, thank you.
So the main reason I interviewed Nick Fuentes is because I wanted to know why Nick Fuentes was
It's kind of a side comment, but I don't know how I feel about this suit. I'm not crazy about it. The khaki colored blazer with the khaki colored pants. I don't know if I'm crazy about that.
popular. And let me just say, none of this is about Nick Fuentes. It's not about one guy. But here you had a guy who was, everyone hated him. He was canceled, and he's getting bigger and bigger, bigger, bigger. And I thought, it's possible he's saying some things that are dumb, or probably, but some things that need to be heard and that are not being heard, and that are appealing to young men who feel like they aren't being heard. And maybe we should hear this and maybe even act on some of these problems.
By the way, before I let them continue, this just came to my mind. Let us never forget, ever, 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 ever forget what happened in the first week and a half after the Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson interview came out. Let us never forget what happened. Let that be permanently branded into your mind, permanently imprinted into your mind, and never forget how insane and unhinged these people were in the aftermath of this interview. They freaked the hell out. They acted identically to the left after Jordan Peterson and Babylon Bee were deplatformed. They said they're neo-Nazis, they're Hitler supporters, F these people, you shouldn't be platforming this person. Opinion pieces from The Atlantic, opinion pieces from the New York Times, opinion pieces at the Daily Wire, the Free Press, all of them, a complete and utter meltdown because two Americans sat down and had a regular conversation with each other, two American men. And the whole world seemed to be crashing and burning for these people. Oh my God, it's another Holocaust. It's another Shoah. Yeah, well, sorry, but that doesn't work on us anymore. It's a form of emotional blackmail. That's what that is. Never forget. When they call you these names, Nazi, Hitler, fascist, racist, misogynist, ignore all of that. That is identical to what the left does. It's a very leftist tactic. And we need to win the rhetorical war. And I was talking about this with my friend yesterday on our other channel, The New Consensus. Go subscribe. We posted our first interview last night. But this is something that I emphasize with him. As Americans, as nationalists, as America first, it is our responsibility to not just respond or defend ourselves from the accusations of the Zionists, from the accusations of the Israel firsters, and from the accusations of the left. We don't just defend ourselves, we counter-strike. We go on the offensive. When they say, you're a Holocaust denier, you're a Hitler supporter, you're a Nazi. You say you're pulling the Holocaust card. Shut up. The Holocaust card, and then just dismiss them. We have to win the rhetorical battle as well. 90% of politics is optics. We have to have better optics. Like I said, this is a war. It's an informational war. It's an optic war. And we have to win by any means necessary because these people will destroy us and they will destroy our country in the process. They hate our country. They don't see themselves as a part of the American nation. They see themselves as a part of the Jewish nation, the nation of Israel. That's a problem. That's a big problem. I'm a part of the American nation. That's my nation. And yes, I am Black and I am Hispanic, and that is my heritage, but I'm also part of the American nation. We need them to see it the same way. So just never forget the way they melted down the lies, the character assassination, the assaults on our identity, the assaults on our dignity, making us out to be evil, making us out to be Hitler supporters when that's not what we are. After clarifying 1,000 times, never forget what they did. And the reason why is because it's all about political power. Has nothing to do with the clips, has nothing to do with anything that Nick Fuentes or Tucker Carlson have said. It's all about power. Do not be distracted. I can't emphasize that enough.
Problems before things get even crazier than they already are. So I want to talk to you not because I have no idea what you think of Nick Fuentes. I'm not even going to ask you, but because I think that young men are reacting against a society that hates them and have these attitudes we need to hear about. So thank you. Yeah. Have your political views changed in the last 5 years? Well, how old are you? 24?
Just turned 24. And I actually would say not too much, just a little bit.
Yes.
I would say my views started to change probably around late junior year of high school. Nothing significant happened. It was nothing that I saw or anything. It was just I decided I wasn't going to accept just what Con Inc. was giving me. And it's...
What's Con Inc.?
Con Inc. is basically your typical conservative media, you know, very typical Republican, not any sort of nationalist, you know, the type of legal immigration good, illegal bad, you know.
Right.
And it got tiring, and I was like,
okay, if there's one AI site builder you need to meet, it's this dope tech from Wix.
I don't want to just accept what's given to me, like right in front of me. I want to actually think for myself. And so
did you feel, just to press on a little bit, did you feel that the news outlets that were created for you were never liberal, I guess?
Never, no.
Well, okay.
Thank God.
I wasn't either. But you felt that the news outlets that were like there to serve you were actually maybe not serving you and instead misleading you?
No, of course not. And I absolutely hate the media. I just do.
Me too.
They are, to me, the worst people in the world. They are vultures and blood-sucking leeches who care nothing about the country. They thrive off the destruction of the United States. They have no loyalty to a country, to an ideology, to a people. Only their money and the ratings. And the way that they get that.
That's 100% true. He is hitting the nail on the head. That is 1,000% true. MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, they're all the same people. And to make matters worse, these people hang out with each other off the air. So never take any of these people seriously. It's all performative. It's all for show. These people are sick people. They thrive on our destruction. All they care about is ratings, money. That's it. F the nation. F America. They don't give a damn. Never forget that. Never forget the people who are giving you their news in the mainstream media, the legacy media. Never forget that.
Is through sowing division and chaos, because that's how they know people watch them more. That's how they get more money. And so it's very similar to the way the greedy anti-American corporations are, in that they don't care about American values, American identity, American sovereignty, American workers, American people. And therefore, we shouldn't care about them. So, some, I assume...
No, he's cooking. Let him cook.
...are good people, to quote our president.
Okay, I'm glad I asked you that question.
No, I hate them. I really do. And it's...
Can I just say amen loud enough?
Yeah, of course.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Wow. How did you figure that out?
I don't know. It's funny. Everyone in my generation who's a conservative started out with the Ben Shapiro owns SJW compilation videos
Yes.
on YouTube. That's what brought it in. It was not even like the values or the talking points actually, which makes sense why we're leaving it kind of, because it was never the values. It was just funny. It was just
Yeah.
rage bait, That's what drew us in. And now that we were like, hey, wait a minute, why is it that we can't talk about this thing? Or why is it that we're not allowed to criticize this? That's when people started to feel like maybe this isn't allowing us to see the entire picture.
And maybe the point of it was to mislead rather than illuminate.
Right. Exactly.
How old were you when you figured that? I was like 50. So how old were you?
Junior year of high school, what is that? I turned 17, I think.
Really?
So that was, but I of course, I never told anybody my views. And now it's very known that I have different views than my mom, which is also very funny because it's like, whenever anybody like says that, they're like, I can't believe that you have different views. I just say, do you have different views than
Of
your mom? And they'll be like, yeah, of course. So I just
Else
don't, why
do-
would I be any different?
I want to say out loud, because this has been a present factor in my life recently. I think it's totally immoral to use a child to attack a parent.
Absolutely.
I don't
Yep.
think there's really anything lower than that. And I would probably die before I did that. So I just want to be very clear with you. Never do that. And of course, I don't think it's weird that you have different views from a parent. Like, that's just not
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal.
And that's actually one of the things I respect most about you is how loyal and defensive you are of your family.
Of course.
Because, I mean, that's like when you saw that thing about the event, it was like, I can't believe he said that. And the whole time I was thinking, good for him that he did that at that event. Like, I was just like, I would do the same thing. That's a very normal human reaction to someone
think.
attacking your family.
Attack
So,
my dad and
Yeah.
punch you out. Yeah, well, that's your duty as a son, by the way.
absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe that. So I just want to be clear with that.
Yeah.
So you start to have these realizations that maybe this is like kind of fake, or maybe it's totally fake. Who do you talk to about this?
No one, because the last thing you want to do is tell people that you're not accepting what they're accepting and what they're believing. So I've always been the type to just research things. When I see a certain topic that I'm interested in, I just want to learn more about it. And so that's what I did, was taking various different sources and just trying to put it together. And just when you realize you're not allowed to talk about something in particular, it opens up very like more questions than answers, right?
Oh,
And sometimes I still feel like I have more questions than answers.
Oh, I definitely do.
So that I never told anybody, but it was something that I noticed over time that I'm not the only one.
Yes.
Everyone else is noticing this, and everyone else is heading towards the same direction, which is nationalist America first. And that's the direction I hope it will be.
Beautiful.
Well, it's kind of, once you start to think about it, it's the obvious conclusion. What's the purpose of a government?
What's the purpose of a country or a state if there's no nation that it's serving? If it's not serving the nation, rather. What's the purpose of a nation state if the state is not serving the nation? And it's serving billionaires, it's serving oligarchs, it's serving a particular ethnic group, it's serving globalist interests. What is that? It's serving another country, a foreign government. What is the purpose of a nation state if the state is not serving the nation? It's the most ridiculous thing on earth. If it's not serving the nation first, we are the ones propping it up. We're the ones helping the state exist. Yeah, of course it needs to go in that direction. Anything else besides that is fake. No national. What conservative? Our whole country is defined by low taxes, legal immigration, and the free market. Who cares about the free market? People care about if they can afford a home, if they can start a family, if they can afford a car, if they can go to school, if they can get a decent job when they graduate. We don't care about the free market. F the free market, actually. Okay? No, absolutely not. The nation comes first. Very simple.
Once you start to think about it, it's the obvious conclusion. What's the purpose of a government? I mean, you can like America or not like America, whatever, but if you're running America,
Right.
you have an obligation to Americans.
Absolutely. It's a crazy concept, right?
But it's just like, what would the other formula
exactly like, what are we doing?
be? Yeah.
But that's exactly how it's been. It's just, it makes no sense to me why we have special status for certain other countries, why we have special status for certain corporations, certain groups. It's like, why? We have people struggling here. We have people below the poverty line. We have bad schools. We have people going into debt because, they broke a bone. You know, like
Exactly.
this stuff is ridiculous.
Right.
So we have to call it out. And America First, I think, is mistakenly always associated with social and cultural issues.
Right.
But it's also a massive economic issue as well.
I totally agree.
And no one talks enough about that.
Because they don't want to talk about that.
No, of course
it's
not,
easier
because-
to just scream about Hitler.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
What
of
does that have
course.
to do with anything?
Yeah,
He's been dead 80
just
years.
label you
Right.
something, and
Exactly.
the labeling is so ridiculous, and it drives me
Also, notice that, and this is something Norman Finkelstein talked about. He talked about the Holocaust industry. Our consciences are always being oppressed. We can't put ourselves first. We can't put Americans first. We have to defend Israel because the Holocaust, because of Hitler. You know, we can't care about Americans. We can't care about George Washington, Benjamin Franklin. We can't care about the forefathers. We can't care about Roger Sherman, Robert Livingston, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, the founders, the framers. We can't care about them because slavery. We can't care about them because history. They did some bad things. They were, bad people. Why not take into account the context? Why not take in the whole picture of these people, of our history? And this is what they do. They say, you can't be proud of your country. You can't be proud of your nation. You can't be proud of anything because bad things happened in the past. And you have to atone for that. Yeah, well, you know what? No, actually. We are a proud nation, actually. We should be a proud nation, actually. That's what sustains a country. That's what allows it to survive. When we're no longer proud, when we're confused, when we're disoriented, when we're atomized, that's how we get exploited. That's how we're made weak. That's how we're fractured. That's how we're divided and conquered by the media, by corporations, which is not right, actually. That's wrong. And that's what they do. They say, we're going to throw the Holocaust at you so you can't be a nationalist. We're going to throw the Holocaust at you so you can't care about your heritage. You can't care about your ethnic or race or whatever else, your ethnicity, your race, or whatever else. You can't even care about it. Don't even talk about it. Don't talk about your religion. Don't talk about that. Be quiet about that. Because the Holocaust, because the Crusades, because slavery. Whoa. Now you're using that as a tool to control us psychologically, which is wrong. That's actually more evil. That's actually totalitarian. That's actually fascistic. Actually, I heard Nick say something funny on a show last night, which in retrospect actually made sense. But for as much as Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Josh Hammer, Laura Loomer, all the usual suspects, for as much as they talk about fascism and Hitler and the Nazis and totalitarianism and nationalism, it's like for as much as they talk about that, they actually engage in quite a bit of that themselves. The entire idea of fascism is a bundle of sticks. When we come together like a bundle of sticks, we're strong like a bundle of sticks. We can't be broken. Individually, sticks are weak, but in a bundle, sticks are strong. Well, that's what the Jews do. The Jews say, we'll have the North American Jewish Federation, we'll have B'nai B'rith, we'll have the Friends of the IDF in Israel, we'll have the Orthodox Foundation, we'll have the AJC, we'll have the World Zionist Organization, we'll have the Zionist Organization of America, we'll have the World Jewish Congress. We'll have billionaires like Bill Ackman, like Leslie Wexner, like Steven Schwartzman, like Paul Singer, like Larry Ellison. We'll have all these billionaire Jews with major institutional backing. Israel Englander, people in finance, people in media, Bob Iger, Sumner Redstone. We'll have all our people in positions of power in the think tanks, in the media, in the government, in higher education. And then we'll all coordinate and come together and correspond at the ZOA, at the World Jewish Congress, where the positions there are being chaired by other billionaire Jews, and then they'll come together and say, this is what's good for the Jewish nation before America. before the UK, before Germany, before France. What's good for the Jews across the world? And then if we call that out, they'll say, you're Hitler, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist. Well, that's what they're doing. The Jews are coming together like a bundle of sticks. They're rejecting atomization. They're rejecting liberalism. They're rejecting universalism. They're collectivizing. They're coming together like a bundle of sticks to serve their own nation. That's exactly what Hitler did. He said, we're going to get all the Aryans to come together like a bundle of sticks and fight for the nation, to fight for the Aryan nation. The Jews are doing the same thing. We're going to come together like a bundle of sticks and fight for the Jewish nation and fight for Israel. And anybody else who calls us out, we're going to hit them with propaganda. We're going to call them Nazis. We're going to call them fascists. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. And you wonder why people are fed up. If you had white, Irish, Italian, Ethiopian, it wouldn't matter. If you had any group of people with Chinese, if you had any group of people with disproportionate power in the United States, in banking, in media, in higher education, in the government, in the think tanks, at the 501c4s and the 501c3s, and then coordinating on these exclusive to their ethnicity or exclusive to their race organizations that operate internationally, and they use this international organization to coordinate with that particular race or that particular ethnic group in various other countries to serve the interests of this international coalition of Chinese or Ethiopian people, and then tell them that you're guilty for calling us out, you're racist for calling us out. Yeah, I actually do think people would be pretty pissed about that. And for obvious reasons. This is about the principle. It's not about race. It's not about Jews. That doesn't matter. Not to me. It's about the very principle, okay? And that's what it comes down to fundamentally.
Crazy because I've been called everything: fascist, socialist, woke
You have?
right. Yeah, radical. And that's the one that really gets me the most. This is a radical thing. I can be called like fascist, so who cares, right? Those are
Right.
just, everyone uses that now. So it's nothing special. But the radical, that bothered me because I'm like, all I have done, and the only time I've gotten attention was because I advocated for American jobs, American affordability, American safety, American culture. It's like, that's not.
Is it radical to want a coherent nation? Is it radical to want a border? Is it radical to not want to spend billions of dollars fighting wars for foreign countries while they get free healthcare and free education and free college on our dime? Is it radical to not want that? No, actually, what I think is radical is the people gaslighting us and telling us that that's normal. What's radical is taking billions of dollars from us, having us fight their wars, having us subsidize their education, having us subsidize their healthcare, having us subsidize their own national defense industry, and then turning around and calling us Hitler and hateful for calling that out. I actually think that's radical. But anyways,
A radical, that's rational. There's nothing wrong
yeah,
with that.
yeah, that's rational actually. No, they're radical, we're rational.
No.
But it's ridiculous.
It's the least revolutionary platform ever devised.
Oh yeah, and the labeling is so dangerous.
It's not revolutionary at all. We don't want to hurt anyone. We don't want to do anything bad. We don't want to, do anything illegal or take anyone's rights. We just want our interests to come before theirs. That's it. And people have been saying the same thing for God knows how long.
Too. Just calling someone a Nazi is basically the same thing as calling for their death at this point. And we've just, based off of the political violence and the direction we're heading, I don't really see a difference between the two.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
As someone who's been called it quite a bit. So was it Ben Shapiro that you were
Calling somebody a Nazi is basically saying you want to genocide people. And then that does serve as somewhat of I wouldn't say it's a call to violence per se, But it does serve as kind of like a blanket, hey, if you do get killed, that's kind of on you for being a Nazi. You don't really deserve any empathy or any sympathy. I wouldn't say it's a direct call to violence, but it's more so like, you don't deserve any kind of compassion or grace if you do get killed because you're a Nazi, which is not a real thing. It's a made up word or whatever that they like to throw around. But yeah, that's the reason why.
Watching it first?
Ben Shapiro, a lot of Daily Wire, Steven Crowder. But other than that, I think I never sat down and watched Fox, right?
Right.
Because no one in my generation ever
Of
sat
course
down and
not,
watched TV.
no.
So it was always YouTube videos and stuff online and just, memes basically. And now we've kind of evolved and like now I'm on X. I was never on X. My life was probably better before I was on X.
Probably so.
But it's definitely something that I transitioned into, and I don't really watch the people I used to.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I don't watch too many people at all, actually.
Right.
But just lost touch with them. I felt like I couldn't relate anymore. So
What did you said at the outset that you noticed that there were things that were never addressed and that you were not supposed to address? What were those things?
I would say a big part of that is the economic issues that we see.
Yes.
So the goal of every generation, right, is to leave it better than you found it. And right now we're not doing that. We're going in the opposite direction. It's getting worse. And I noticed that, you used to have like a choice. You either for free market neoliberalism or you're a Mamdani style socialist.
Right.
And it's like, no, capitalism is actually a very broad thing, right? So I was upset because we're not allowed to criticize corporations who are clearly not putting American workers first or the country first.
We're not anti-capitalist. We're just saying that capitalism needs regulations, not just like this magical free market sort of thing. Like, you can't subsidize Europe's defense, with NATO, and then have them and they're not paying for it, and then have them dump their agricultural products here, which hurts our domestic industry. No, you need tariffs. No, you need policies to fight against that kind of imbalance. It's very simple. It's not just free market. No, you need to regulate the trade so it benefits your country. It's very simple. It's just, it doesn't have to be laissez-faire or communism where we get rid of the state. No, there's a healthy middle ground there. Tariffs, industrial policy. And when we say tariffs, we're not just saying blanket tariffs. We're saying sector-specific tariffs that protect our domestic industry, whether it's agriculture, whether it's tech, whether it's whatever else. That's what it's about. It's not we're just going to tariff the whole world willy-nilly. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying there's certain sectors that should be protected because those benefit our country disproportionately. It's a very basic concept. People make it so complicated. It's not. It's not laissez-faire or communism. There's a healthy middle ground there.
First. And the Republican Party historically has been like, you can't criticize that. You can't criticize the free markets. And I don't even like to call it free markets, more like lawless markets, actually.
Yes.
Literally.
And that's actually the same structure that destroyed industrial America. All of those.
It's so easy to become a podcaster with Riverside. You just need a concept and a way to record it. First, go.
Factory worker jobs that were in Ohio, in Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Pennsylvania, that all got sent over to China and other foreign countries. And we're not allowed to criticize that? Of course I'm going to criticize that. You're putting American workers last.
Of course.
And we're putting the elites first, and that's not right. We're putting a small number of people ahead of the majority, and I don't agree with that.
Yep.
Well, how could anyone agree with that?
Because they have their own interests, and certain things drive that interest, like money. And that's what we see from the media. It's what we see from corporations, and that's what they do because they don't want to lose track of that.
It seems like one of the main control devices employed by Con Inc., as you call it, the institutional conservatives who are not conservative in any sense, but whatever, was to just call you a socialist. If you talked about Israel, you're an anti-Semite. If you talked about the collapsing, inverting American economy where a tiny group got everything, you were a socialist.
It's ridiculous.
But did you feel that?
That I was a socialist?
No, but did you feel that some of those gatekeepers were using that term to keep you from asking?
100%. And they still do that. And it's never going to go away because anything that's a threat to, like I said, just like the media.
That's another thing. Like, these words don't mean anything anymore. Socialist, communist. Socialist and communist have very specific definitions. Socialist, there's a difference between socialism and communism. And people conflate those two words all the time. They're not the same. Okay? So, in the process of going from capitalism to communism, you first have to go through socialism. Socialism is the process of a revolutionary workers' party overthrowing the bourgeois, overthrowing the capitalist elite, and then installing a new revolutionary workers' party that is supposed to facilitate the transition to communism. And they have to manage the economy. They have to centralize the economy, plan everything. They have to assert control over trade policy. They have to assert control over private property. They have to assert control over the military before they start to collectivize these things and then deconstruct them. And then in that process, you move towards communism, which is a complete abolition of the state. The military dissolves and they all fracture into local militias. The government doesn't really have any active role in a communist society because everything is owned collectively, everything is owned locally. And the entire idea of going from capitalism to communism through socialism is that socialism is the process of basically breaking apart the entire society using this revolutionary workers' party. Because you have to use propaganda, you have to use the mass media in order to create a nation or a society that is receptive to the ideas of communism. And in order to do that, you have to attack religion. You have to make them atheists. You have to make them ideologically uniform. You have to make them loyal to the Revolutionary Workers' Party. You have to embed them with a class conscience. And you have to get rid of their ethnic identity, get rid of their heritage or ignore their heritage, remove all old forms of traditional art, all forms of traditional institutions, cultural institutions like museums, like landmarks, get rid of any kind of traditional clothing, because that ties people, that attaches people to a former society, a former nation. So you have to use this Revolutionary Workers' Party to propagandize these people to create an entirely new population of people who can fit right in to a communist society. You have to give them an ideology. You have to make them atheists. You have to fight the church. You have to suppress dissent. And only after that has happened will the conditions for a communist society have been met. That's what it means to be a socialist and a communist. To be a socialist is not just to say, oh, I want the government to have subsidized healthcare, subsidized housing. That's not what that means. So when these people throw all these words at you, just say, shut up, shut up. You know, they just make up all these words. I hate it so much. I literally hate it with my whole heart. The way people just lie about everything and just make up words to misrepresent you. It is infuriating.
Any corporate money or anything that, you know, they don't make their quarterly goal or their profit, then yeah, they're going to call anyone a socialist, because just being against them, they want to label you because it scares people. The word socialist scares people, and it's not a good thing. I don't like socialism.
Right.
But they use it.
Well, it's a different thing. Wanting a social safety net and wanting a socialist government is not the same thing. Wanting some form of subsidized healthcare, maybe some high quality government housing wherever that's possible, that doesn't make you a socialist. We're not saying get rid of religion, get rid of the church, get rid of people's cultural and ethnic or whatever else affinity, their religious views. We're not saying get rid of all that. That's what socialists want. It's such a loaded term. There's so much baggage attached to it. But we have to kind of destigmatize it a little bit as well. We're saying we do want some social programs that benefit Americans, but we don't want to make the entire economy socialist. We don't want to collectivize agriculture. We don't want to abolish private property. We don't want to suppress the church, suppress dissent. That they're trying to tar and feather you. Do not let them do that. Ever. Never. That's why you need to learn the definition of these words and be educated. Otherwise, you're going to get blindsided.
In the wrong way because they want to label someone to say, hey, don't talk about that. He's this, he's that, he's a socialist. And it's used to kind of delegitimize you. But I think when you look at the Republican Party now, is now becoming more of the party of the working class, and my generation is kind of responsible for that. I think it was Newsweek that reported something that in the 90s or 80s, something like that, they did a survey which said, which party is the party of the working class? Like 90% said Democrats. It was unanimous, right? Like everyone knew the Democrat Party meant working people.
Oh, I was there. That's correct.
Right. And now they asked that again this year, and 51% said Democrats and 49% said Republicans. Why would we not embrace that group of people, those hardworking people? We wouldn't have a country without them.
Of course.
So I hope to see that, and I think my generation is starting to lean that way, and it's important that we put American workers first.
Debt. The last conversation I had on camera with Charlie Kirk was about the debt that young people are incurring, not just their student loans, which are, I think, the biggest.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but my belief is if you work 50, 60, 70 hours a week doing manual labor, HVAC, you're an electrician, you're in a trade, you're doing waste management, you're doing community service of some sort, 50 to 60 hours a week, you're a civil servant, whatever, it doesn't matter. You should have the means to survive and live a comfortable life. That's my opinion. It's really not radical. If you work for it, absolutely. Because if you don't, what's the point in working? To be a wage slave your whole life? To be paying off credit card debt your whole life? To be single and never be able to start a family because everything is too expensive? That's insane. Your country's going to commit suicide if you do that. People are going to commit suicide literally if you do that. That's why giving people who work just a decent quality of life. We're not saying make them millionaires or billionaires or rich. Just a decent quality of life is completely fair. And it's pragmatic for the survival of your nation and the survival of your country.
But their credit cards, their buy now, pay later scams. How big a factor is that in your generation?
The reaction to the economic issues that my generation sees ahead of them is despair.
Hold on.
Hopelessness. They don't see any way out. I mean, and why would they? Because we just passed, I think it was $38.2 trillion in debt recently. So, and that's all mainly, and the biggest thing that scares my generation is the housing crisis. By far. The average first-time home buyer in America is 40 years old now. 40. 5 years ago, it was 33. So it's scary how quick I personally, I don't see how I'm ever going to buy a home, and I do decently well for someone my age. And I still don't see it. I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina. It's just south of Charlotte. And I got so angry because about a month or two ago, I was like, let me look at housing prices. Let me see what they are. And I saw how expensive they were. And then I looked and saw how much they were just a few years ago.
Yeah.
2019.
And it's
before
doubled,
COVID.
almost tripled the cost. And that's everywhere in South Carolina, not just there. And it's beyond frustrating that people of the past generations are not doing what parents should do, which is have your kids have a greater life than you did. That's the goal. So it's hopelessness, really.
How much debt does your friends have? I won't ask you about yourself, but I mean, do people have student loans, credit cards? Is that part of it?
I mean, everyone's probably scared to talk about it, so I wouldn't know. But I would imagine, just from school alone, tens of thousands,
Can I
maybe
ask-
some even six.
Are people not getting
What- so it's-
are people not getting FAFSA? I will just say this with the university thing. Go to a public university and try to get on FAFSA if you can. If your parents are too rich or have too much money or they don't meet the benchmark to get the full, I think $7,500 from FAFSA, tough shit, but your parents are probably in a position more likely where they can afford it than somebody who does qualify for the full 7,500. But I don't know. People are coming, I'm not defending it. Obviously, tuition is ridiculously expensive, even at public universities. But there are, well, not in California, luckily. There's a lot of cheap public universities out here in LA. But the people who complain about student loan debt, but then go to a private university or go to a high dollar public university and don't get FAFSA, it's like, well, that's kind of that's kind of a self-inflicted wound. I'm not defending the system. I'm not. Seriously, I'm not. The system is completely effed. But you got to try to find any loophole you can find.
We live in a country where people are like totally happy to tell you about their sex lives, whatever weird thought they've had. They're just, it's an exhibitionist culture, but not on the question of debt and money. Why is that? You say people are embarrassed to say they're in hock to Citibank for their credit card. Why is that embarrassing?
But you know what? Now it's actually, I've noticed it is actually becoming a little less where people are more vocal about it because it's just so normal. Everyone has it and no one really sees a way out. So it's like, what's there to hide? So,
well, because there's this kind of cultural shame and this cultural stigma of having debt. Like it makes you look bad. It's a sign of financial irresponsibility. It's somehow a sign that you're not disciplined. Yeah, well, you know what? Everybody's in debt, actually. Lots of people are in debt. It's actually normal to be in debt. It's rare for people to have a lifestyle where they're not living paycheck to paycheck. Those people are actually in the top, 20, 15th percentile. The bottom 80th of us are all in debt, in some form of debt. Whether it's with car insurance or whether it's with a credit card, whether we're paying back, paying back a student loan, or whether we're paying back, some mechanic that we owe for some issue that we had with our car, or paying off a medical bill, or there's various ways to get into debt. And yeah, no, it's just like this idea that, there's supposed to be some shame. It's like, no, not necessarily. No, a lot of it is just life and tough things happen. So yeah, no.
I think that that's becoming less taboo to talk about.
I hope so.
And I think it's a great thing because the previous generation, either they're not sure of the problems we're facing or they're ignoring it. And to be honest, I don't know which one's worse. So.
And there's also this kind of residual feeling that an indebted person is solely responsible for his debt.
Yeah.
Whereas we don't feel that way about, say, drug addiction.
Right.
It's the addict's fault. It's also the dealer's fault. And actually, the dealer gets a worse punishment.
Hi, my name is Devin Doyle. I am a 9 out of 10 term DC student here at SCU. What initially inspired...
I don't understand that. I think that is an idea that's been pushed by Con Inc. pretty hard.
Yeah, and I think just based off of our system now, I think we've seen that that's not the case. If you want, and now it's getting to a point where it's like if you have to have a degree for everything now. Like, even you want to work at McDonald's, you have to get a degree. You want to, have this.
I don't know
job, get a degree.
I don't know about that one. Is that true? You need a degree to work at McDonald's? That's new to me.
Like everything's a degree when it doesn't need to be a degree. And so that's when we're
I think maybe he's just joking, and I didn't get the joke.
seeing like so many people going into debt when they don't even need to go to college. And that's how it was for my parents, my friends' parents, everybody else. You got a job straight out of high school, not even college. You got it out of high school.
Yeah.
And now it's just become so saturated that it's just you need a degree in something ridiculous for something that doesn't require it. It's pushing people into debt when they don't need to be.
Do people in your generation think that that's an accident? Or like, how did we get here? This was not the case.
I think they're all confused. I think they have no idea what to make of it because we didn't make it. It's not our fault. We didn't do anything. It was the previous generation. They should answer. So I think we're all just like, what just happened? How come it's harder for us? And they have no idea. And they shouldn't have any idea because they're not doing anything wrong. They're getting educated for the most part, they're hard workers. Not, you know, you have some issues with Gen Z with work ethic, but when they want to work, they will work and they're good at it.
There are only two kinds of Gen Z employees. We were just laughing about this last week. My college roommate and I. They're either like just total pothead losers, or they're like the most impressive kids
No
you've
in
ever
between.
met.
No in between.
Is that's not our imagination?
Oh no, that's very accurate. No in
What
between.
is that?
I don't know. I don't have no idea.
I can honestly say some of the smartest people I've ever met, or for real. I'm not. That's not false flattery. In your generation, like totally aware of everything, and then, you know, then there's the face tattoo people. But
amazing.
like, why?
I couldn't even speculate. It actually does make no sense at all. But it's very interesting to think about because I've noticed that as well.
Yeah, it does give you hope because there are a lot of kids who know what's up.
Yeah, especially with these issues because, you know, those pothead kids, you know, they probably don't know what's going on. They wouldn't notice that something's wrong at all.
Right.
But now we have kids that are waking up. They're noticing that there's a problem and they're saying we have to speak up. We have to fix this. So
Interesting. What's the prevailing view of like war, foreign policy?
Oh gosh, we hate war. We really despise it. George Bush was probably the worst president in modern America by far.
Yeah.
When you look at the amount of debt, like when we talked about the 38.2 trillion, I mean, think about how much of that was Iraq, Afghanistan, all of that.
Yes.
And we don't have anything to show for it, really. I mean, Iraq is now basically a satellite state of Iran.
Yeah, it's basically a colony for Iran.
You know, there was a deterrent to
Got
one of America's
Finlandized.
enemies, and now it's just a puppet state. And you have Afghanistan, which, you know, understand attacking Al Qaeda. You know, they attacked us, sure.
Yes.
But the idea that you want to turn a Stone Age society to a progressive liberal democracy is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
Ever. Yeah.
And so we can't rationalize why that ever happened. And even people in your generation, they're like, what were we thinking?
This guy said Stone Age. That was pretty funny.
Why did we do that? Like, I've spoken to so many people who are conservative, and they're like, I don't understand why we ever did that. And the war is just not something we like. I don't think anyone likes it. And the real tragedy of war was not the debt. It's actually just the innocent American lives that were lost.
Yes.
That's the real tragedy.
I agree.
And all the other stuff is secondary, but it still has lasting effects on us.
So when you hear people agitating for like another regime change war in whatever country, what do you think?
I'm angry and I'm frustrated as someone who's the son of, you know, my dad's in the military.
Yes.
That makes me angry
Yes.
because I don't want him to go and fight in a war that will just be another waste of money and a failure. So there's a personal element to it, but also it's just stupid. You know, how many times are we going to do this before we learn it doesn't work,
Yes.
right? So there's so many elements to it. Personal, financial makes no sense, and it's just logistically absolutely stupid.
It is stupid.
And it makes me angry that people are even advocating for something like that. And I don't think they're advocating it just to advocate for it. I think there's interest groups that are pushing them to advocate for that.
Clearly, there are.
Yeah,
I've
think
heard a lot about that
tanks.
recently. So that's one of the topics that nobody ever, including me, I had zero desire to talk about it. The Israel question, and Fuentes is
question.
most famous for. Yeah, there's no upside in that,
Yeah.
and I just
The question no one wants to ask.
I never felt it was as central as it turned out to be. I guess I just didn't understand it very well. But Fuentes is famous for, you know, saying naughty things, but also saying, like, you know, pretty straightforward critique of the control that Israel has over the United States. Is that view widely shared, do you think?
Well, I don't know too much. I mean,
Let's take
I've-
Fuentes out of it.
Yeah.
I keep reading that young people's views of Israel are increasingly skeptical, if not hostile. Do you think that's true?
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't think it's anything we've done. I think it's all reliant on Israel. That's on them, actually, not
Yep.
on us. And
We just
the
supported
reality
them.
is they're just another country. I've never bought into like they're super evil, you know,
Right.
like all. They're just another country. Who cares?
Right.
And if they want a better relationship with the United States, they need to stop interfering in our politics. It's really simple.
Yes.
And it's not just Israel. I mean, we need to ban foreign aid. We need to stop sending. We should not have a single dime going to another country when we have people in poverty, with bad schools, medical debt, all that stuff. It makes no sense. That's part of America first.
I don't know if I agree with that. That I don't agree with. Foreign aid has diplomatic and relational benefit. International, in terms of international relations, foreign aid does have benefits. Okay, we're not going to say it doesn't. It's kind of retarded to just say we're not going to cut off all foreign aid. So you're going to cut off foreign aid for malaria, for Ebola, for various other diseases that are central to the sub-Saharan region of Africa. And of course, it's not done just to help them out. There's obvious benefits that we reap from it. So let's not pretend like it's all humanitarian, but you're just going to cut off foreign aid when it doesn't cost us anything. It costs us very little. It's like less than a fraction of 1% of our overall GDP. And you're going to let, I don't know, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of kids die in Africa because you don't want a fraction of 1% of that money to go to foreign aid to help people who are dying. I'm not really a fan of that. Obviously, there are certain contexts in which that doesn't make sense, like with Israel, like with Ukraine, where they put themselves in a situation where they literally put themselves in harm's way by constantly provoking conflicts with their neighbors, and then we egg it on by giving them tens of billions of dollars and all kinds of military assets to continue this perpetual cycle of violence and war and kill innocent people in the process and then drag our country's reputation to hell with them. Yeah, that is like, no, that kind of foreign aid is ridiculous. If anything, we should have sanctions and an arms embargo on Israel. But to say, foreign aid so that people can get like Ebola shots or vaccines for AIDS in Africa so they don't die at 4 or 5 years old, really? I don't know about that. That I don't agree with. Or anywhere for that matter. Southeast Asia, anywhere. I don't know. And when we get political benefits from doing that. So I don't get it. I don't agree with the whole foreign aid thing. People have kind of spurred out on that.
Also should ban foreign lobbying. It's
that I agree
irresponsible.
with.
Why would we have the interest of another country put as policy for our country?
Yes.
Our leaders should be making decisions on the interest of American people, not someone in Burundi or something. Who cares?
Exactly.
Right? So those are two things that I think if we cut out the aid, cut out the lobbying, I think it'll stop a lot of influence, not just from Israel, but from every country.
Exactly.
Because it's not just Israel. It is a lot of other countries that do that. And it's just as much a problem.
And just as egregious a violation of the most basic principle of government, which is serve your people first.
Absolutely. Yep.
Do you feel people are less afraid to say that now?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I just remember, like, growing up when I was in that 2016 era of conservative politics, Israel was untouchable. Like, you could not say anything about it.
No, I remember.
And in some ways, it's, like, still kind of that way. But it's, like, it's just weird. It's weird, the obsession, you know? Whether I'm not one to like the obsession, whether it's good or bad. It's just weird that people are obsessed with it the way it is. And I just don't agree with either one.
I agree.
You know?
I completely agree.
Waste of time.
It's
just another
unhealthy,
country.
too.
Yeah, it really is.
Wake up thinking about Israel every day. It's not good in either direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's focus on America. How about that?
Amen. So what are your views on immigration, and what views do you think best describe the people you know?
So 2016, Trump brought a spotlight on illegal immigration, and that was really desperately needed because we had seen it, but no one really said the obvious. Now we need to do the same with legal immigration. We need to state the obvious. Mass migration is a problem.
Yes.
And it's funny, when I've started speaking out against that, the amount of legal immigrants in this country, the amount of children of immigrants in this country who have come up to me and say, thank you for speaking about that, is shocking in some ways, but it's also not shocking because
It's not shocking.
It's directly impacting them.
Of course.
How ironic is it that someone leaves their country in search of the American dream to give their kids a better life, only for their kids to grow up and have the job that they want being sent back to the country that they came from? Like, that's ridiculous.
That's true.
And it's
So perfect, though, in a way. Yes.
yeah, I mean, you can't make that up. And I do see like a lot of There are some, on the other hand, who are legal immigrants, who are children of immigrants, who are saying that's hypocritical of me. You know,
Why?
no one should. Well, because of my grandparents who immigrated here, which is back in 1969. And my response is always like, it's not 1969. We have a very different country. We have a very different set of circumstances. Therefore, it's then rational
So your
to
grandparents
adapt and
did
adjust.
something 50.
People say the same thing to me because my grandma and my grandfather immigrated here in the late 60s or early 70s, and my dad was born here in 1975. Like, well, that's hypocritical, you know. You benefited from the Hart-Celler Act. Yeah, but yeah, it was a different time. The 70s was a completely different time. The country's demographics were completely different. It was still like 90 or 89, 90% white, and then you had blacks and Hispanics. Or no, I think around that time it was like 85, 80% white, and then 10% Hispanic, 10% black. But now the country is what? 7% Asian, 18% Hispanic, 13% black, and you have all sorts of other groups that are living here as well. Yeah, I mean the demographics have completely changed, but it isn't even just the immigration aspect of it. That's the people aspect, the demographics. That's the separate question. It's the ethos of this country that's changed so dramatically. It's gone from being America, a nation, a people, to an economic zone for people who just want to come here and work and then send money back home. Not come here, start a new life, settle, adapt, assimilate, raise a family. That whole spirit has kind of changed. And a lot of people actually hate the country. So for me, as the beneficiary of the greatest country in the history of the human species, and the grandchild of immigrants, I think it's 100% fair for me to say, wait, no, that's not actually what the idea of immigration is. You just come here and you want to work and then send money back home and not assimilate and not adopt Enlightenment values, a Christian worldview, liberal values, about Greco-Roman philosophy and all these kinds of things, a kind of universalist attitude to kind of reject an ethnic or familial, you know, priority or fealty, but to see yourself as a member of a nation and to have a universalist outlook. I think it's totally fair for me to call that out. And it's kind of funny too. It almost is like basically saying you benefited from legal immigration to the United States, or your grandparents benefited from legal immigration to the United States, but because you're brown, all of a sudden you have to be the one to defend all these Hispanics who come here illegally, or a bunch of Hispanics who come here and actually secretly hate the country and don't assimilate. Isn't that kind of racist, actually? Like, that betrays a kind of racism in the way that you view me. Like, you don't view me as an American. You don't view me as one with this nation. You view me as an immigrant or the grandchild of immigrants who is supposed to, like, for whatever reason, stick up for immigrants before I stick up for the nation itself. That's like, what? Doesn't make sense. And yes, the circumstances are completely different now. To compare the United States and its demographics in 2025 to the way they were in 1975, and then say, oh, well, you're an American, you have to defend more rapid demographic change when literally nobody is voting for that. That's insane. I'm taking the rational position and responding to the realities in 2025, not just like this abstract idea of like, I'm the grandchild of immigrants on my dad's side, and so I have to, like, I'm suddenly responsible for the spokesperson for all immigrants. What is that about? And I've always said, the United States, it's a country of ideals. I believe that. The creed, the universalism, Greco-Roman philosophy, Western civilization, Christianity, the Enlightenment, liberalism, universalism, individualism, individual responsibility. All those things are things I agree with. And if you come here and you adopt the ideals, then you should be welcomed and brought into the nation. But that doesn't mean we also don't have a heritage that goes back to the 1600s or the 1700s that is also important, that is also crucial to our identity as a nation, that should also be acknowledged and preserved. And on top of that, That's not even what's happening now in many cases. What's happening is millions of people are coming here. Many are coming here illegally, but some legally as well. And they're going into ghettoized enclaves and retaining a kind of clannish, tribal mindset. And they have a they create an enclave or a ghetto that is almost overwhelmingly composed of their own ethnic group, and so they don't really have to assimilate. They can bring India to America. They can bring Afghanistan to America. They can bring Mexico to America. And it's like, that's not really what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to become a part of our nation and adopt our values, and you can keep your culture in the process. But it's not, you bring your nation, you bring Mexico here, China here, India here, and then reject our values. That can't work. That can't happen. And when people come here in mass, that is what happens. So I'm not going to stand up for something that I objectively disagree with and that I think is wrong and a violation of our principles and the entire idea of a melting pot just because I'm the grandchild of immigrants. That's insane.
6 years ago.
Now I have to do the same thing and believe the same thing they did, which I know damn well they don't, because if they did, they wouldn't have the progressive views that they have, because no grandparents had that progressive views.
Yeah.
But they want to put it on me because they're mad that someone with my identity has the views that I have. And they want to.
It's
Oh,
crazy.
because you're part Indian or something?
Yeah, they think that I owe them my loyalty because of some decision my grandparents made, which is stupid because all I've known is America. All I know is American culture. I love the South. I love Southern culture. I only speak English. I'm a Christian. Why would I care about anything else?
Exactly.
And so you have the legal immigrants and the children of immigrants who are upset at me and who've called me racist, all sorts of things. And
Just ignore that. Just ignore that. It's just a made up word. They just use it now for whatever. And everything is racist now. Racist has a very particular definition. To be racist is to make conclusions about someone's character based on their race. That is what racism means. To draw inferences or make conclusions about someone's identity, character, simply based on their race. That is what racism is. To say, I think you're bad because you're black. I think you're bad because you're Jewish. I think you're greedy because you're Jewish. I think you're corrupt because you're Jewish. I think you're lazy because you're black. I think you're dumb because you're black. I think you're stinky because you're Indian. That's what racism is. Racism is not saying, hey, let's not bring millions of people here to this country who want to go form enclaves and then not adopt American culture and are actually hostile to the country that they're moving to. That's actually not racist. That's actually sane, actually. And to say, no, there is a kind of culture, a kind of identity, a kind of philosophy that built this civilization, that built this country, and we should adopt it if we're going to come here. It's very simple. There's nothing racist about that, actually. Anyways, don't let them gaslight you.
Racist.
yeah, racist.
Especially if those are your real views. We're nationalists. It's like there's certain expectations that we have when you go to a nation.
for saying we don't need more people here, but it's ridiculous. But the reality is that when those people who are calling me racist lose their job, they need to remember that it was the people that they called racist that were actually trying to save their job from being taken by a foreigner.
Yes,
There you go.
exactly.
And so I eventually they may understand that, but it's shocking, really, how we're allowing this to happen.
How widespread is that view, do you think, among people you know?
I would say it's actually, I would say, kind of split. I don't think it's as noticeable as like the economic issues where everyone seems to see it because they feel it. But we have a big country, right? There are some parts of America where you don't see too much migration. They're
No.
like, what is everyone talking about? There's no migration. But that's just not the case. And really, I think it's irresponsible to have legal immigration at a time when companies aren't hiring, Americans specifically.
Yeah.
We're in a fragile economy, and you have AI taking over a lot of jobs. So why would it make sense to import more foreign workers? It doesn't. And that's just one aspect of it, is the economic issue. The cultural and assimilation issue is a whole nother aspect. And I think it was, so immigrations historically have basically been expected to assimilate. And then around the Obama years was when you started to see a shift of like, no, you don't need to change. You can be who you are. No, you need to assimilate. You have to. Because without it, we lose our identity as a country. Why would we have people in here who don't see themselves as one of us?
Right.
And that's how you end up with places like Minneapolis, with Little Somalia. These people isolate themselves and don't integrate. You have parts of Miami where people literally don't speak English at all, which is insane, because if I was to move to another country and I was thinking, where could I go to get a better opportunity? Oh, I know, somewhere where I don't speak the freaking language. Genius, right? But it's just unbelievable. And there's so many different aspects to immigration that it's not just the migration part of it, but a lot of other things that are just out of control.
Like what?
So naturalized citizens should not be able to hold public office. Growing up here is a big part of understanding the country. We need to stop and limit the amount of foreign students that are coming into our universities. Some of them are spies, by the way.
True.
For foreign governments. But it's also just, we should put our kids first.
Yes.
And we should also not allow dual citizenship, because that's the stupidest idea. You're either American or you're not. And everyone wants to make it so complicated. That's the thing that I don't like about the past generation, is they're always about the rules, the process, and regulation. No, it's really simple. You're just America first. People should have their loyalty to America first. And if they can't do that, then this ain't the country for you.
Yeah, and dual citizenship immediately.
Totally right. What about serving in a foreign military?
Oh gosh, no, forget about it. You can't do that.
Of course not, right?
It's ridiculous. That idea alone is just insane.
Yeah.
Dual citizenship's already bad enough, but to serve in another country's military is disqualifying. Really.
That's wild. That's what Marissa Straight did. Yeah, that's wild.
Of course. I mean, it's hard to believe it's even a conversation. What about language? Do you worry that, countries are united by their language, and language is inseparable from culture? Language is culture in a lot of ways, but this doesn't seem like an English-speaking country anymore.
Yeah, especially when you go to places like Minneapolis, Miami, New York, which I lived there for a little bit. And yeah, I want to be able to understand everybody. I just do. It's my country. I don't think I should have to speak another language in my own country. I don't think anyone wants that. I don't think it's good for us. Not saying that you can't know another language. I think that's great to know another language.
That's good.
But to have anything other than English as the primary language in this country,
it would balkanize it.
Not acceptable.
You're not describing the priorities of the modern Republican Party at all here.
No, but hopefully one day it will be. That's what I hope will happen.
So my sense, but you would know, is that everything you just said for the past half an hour is like basically what most young men your age
not radical.
think who are conservative.
Who are conservative? Absolutely, yes.
Who are conservative. So do they look at the Republican Party as representing them?
No, not at all. And that's the struggle that we face. And that's where the anger comes from, is that we're looking at our politicians and we don't see any of us, right? When you have a politician, you want them to kind of be a reflection of you in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And we don't have that at all. And you have Democrats who have kind of listened to young people on their side. So when they're not listening to us on the Republican side, yeah, it's pretty frustrating. You have Democrats who have the first Gen Z member of Congress. They have the AOC, they have the Mamdani, they have all these young, youthful figures who are doing pretty well, making media, advocating for their causes. But who do we have?
John
it's
Thune,
frustrating.
Mike
we can't look
Johnson,
to someone and say,
Kevin
that's
McCarthy.
our guy, he speaks for us.
What is that? I couldn't agree more.
They must just be anti-young people. I don't know. Or they just don't want to face the problems
They're
that we're putting
careerists.
forth, which is the issues on the economy, the issues on immigration.
They care more about their career than the country. It's that simple. They care more about their own career and their own well-being than the country, than their constituents. It's that simple. It's just selfishness.
Because
Really.
they'd rather just call us radical. It's a lot easier.
I wonder if that makes people radical over time.
Oh, for sure. for sure it makes people radical because they get so angry.
Yeah.
And when people are angry and they feel like they have no one speaking for them, then yeah, of course they're going to get angry because we deserve representation. That's the whole point of
Right.
this democracy. Our system is that you should be able to have someone who represents you. And we don't have that. And not just don't have that. It'd be one thing if we didn't have someone who we felt we could relate to. That's fine. That's normal. You can't relate to everybody.
Yeah.
But someone who's actively ignoring the problems that we're saying, these are massive problems. Yeah, it's frustrating.
What's going on with the way that men and women get along?
That's a very interesting question. That's something I've said for years is that, literally years I've been saying the future of division in this country is not all these other things like race or income. I mean, those may be some issues, but the massive division in this country in the future is going to be between gender, men and women. That's especially problematic because in order for a society to function, men need women, women need men.
Amen.
So the fact that that's the upcoming divide is very scary.
And do you feel that divide?
I would say, in some ways, I think it's a little exaggerated. There are women who are traditional, but for the most part, men are more traditional in my generation. Yes. And I think they're going in different directions, but they're going in different directions for a lot of the same reasons, which is empowerment. Women see themselves as going the more progressive lane, that it's empowering to wear revealing clothes or do whatever you want and be promiscuous, and which is actually the male gaze of someone who just wants to view them as an object and not care about who they are as a person, which is, how is that empowering?
I don't think a body count of 20 is that empowering.
Exactly.
I'm just guessing.
It's ridiculous that that's seen as feminist, though. But the reason why I think that is because, on the other hand, you have men, and this is not a majority of traditional men, but there's this very small minority where they feel insecure and powerless. They think that them having a traditional mindset where they're the leader, they're the provider, they're the protector, and they think, because of that, my role is better than that of a woman.
Right.
What that does, that's wrong, first of all, but what that does is that it gives ammo to the feminists who are like, look, see women, what we've been trying to tell you, that they think they're better than you, you have to go our way. When in reality, that's not what tradition is at all. No. It's, yes, men are the leader, provider, protector, all of that. But without the woman, it just doesn't work. The family structure doesn't work. Well, you
said it at the outset. Men and women need each other. That's just the bottom line. It's the biological fact. It's the emotional reality. It's the spiritual reality.
It doesn't work for a man in a family to not have a woman. It doesn't work for a woman to not have a man.
Exactly.
And it's actually, in a way, the whole point is that it brings their best characteristics together to build something amazing. They complement each other with their traits. They rely on each other. And what the result of that is just a beautiful family. It works. Studies have shown.
How do you know all this?
Well, because studies have shown actually that people in these traditional marriages where they pray together, they have less divorce. They're more happy. On the opposite, you have women who are going the progressive route. They're miserable. And studies have shown that as well, where they're struggling, and they only realize that later in life, struggling to find a person, find a man, to have children, and they become miserable. So it works, but the beauty of it is that it's not the view that a man is better than a woman. It's that they have different traits. Exactly. They combine them to make something beautiful. It's partnership. And I think if that was explained to more progressive women and on the left, then they would see it's not about men being better at all. It's just
dominating
about,
you or humiliating you. No, it's about helping each other.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
It's
God
unity.
Eve is a helper. They help each other.
Right.
Then that is a fair description.
That's how you sustain a society.
So, how hard is it to date at 24? For young men, not you, but
I mean, young men, it's not hard. But if you're a Christian, yeah, it's very hard.
Why?
Well, because it's hard to find someone who prioritizes that in their life. And I'm not saying that's specific to our generation. That's every generation. It hasn't really been that easy.
Yeah.
But that's just something that is very difficult. And it's unfortunate because that's what makes the most successful relationships. That's what, makes happier children, more successful
Yeah.
children. It's a really beautiful thing. And the fact that people are rejecting that is very, very sad.
It is really sad.
Yeah.
I also get the sense that there's an increase in religious faith among young men.
100%. 100%.
Really?
Yeah. Which is, I mean, that came out of nowhere, really. Like, no
know.
one expected that. And, you know, good, right? Like, God willing, that'll spread everywhere. And we'll be like that everywhere.
When did you first notice that? I mean, you grew up in the South. You grew up in a nominally Christian culture because it's the South, right?
Right.
But people talking to each other, young people, about God, mentioning God.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
So there's always been like cultural.
That's a huge part of Southern culture. I grew up in Texas. That's a huge thing down there. They have those what are they called? Those Bible studies. At the public school that I went to in Houston. And yeah, no, that was a huge thing. Religion is a huge thing in the South. People don't realize that who live in other parts of America. It is like it's everywhere. Like the churches are everywhere. Everybody's got a Jesus sticker on their bumper. They do the Christian ministries inside the public schools. Yeah, it's pretty crazy how religious they are down there.
Christianity,
Right.
right? But there's a difference between what we're seeing now, which is actual lived faith in
Yes.
Christ. And we're seeing that in church attendance is going up among young men. Really, I don't know what brought it about. The only thing I could attribute it to is probably the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
And I don't know why it's happening now, but
If you're a producer who hates AI, this plugin might change your mind. This is Reimagining CoProducer. You can take any sample.
I hope it grows and I hope it continues to flourish because it's something our society desperately, desperately needs.
What was your path?
This is so I grew up with kind of two religions in my household. So I had my parents who were Protestant, and my grandparents have always lived with me growing up, my mom's parents.
Yes.
And they were Sikh. As a result, I was very confused.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. And I just remember that as young as like third grade, when my friends would check out their books on dinosaurs and cars and all that stuff, I was reading on every single world religion and trying to absorb as much as I can because I wanted to know if God exists, and if he does, who is he, right? So that's what I spent doing for years. And I would say,
Reading about world religions
Yes.
instead of dinosaurs?
yes, I was obsessed with it. And I just,
Unusual child. Yeah.
I was, yeah. Yeah.
No, it's
to put
great.
it that way. But, and then I would say like around like seventh grade. So like this is a few years of just researching this stuff obsessively. I was reluctant to speak about this publicly, but I figured if it blesses just one person, then I'll say it here. I had an experience where I was researching, and it was as if in an instant, I heard, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And as if the knowledge, the truth of God was placed instantly after that was said in my mind and in my heart. And it's funny, after all these years, I've struggled to really put into words that experience and that feeling. But once that happened, I had always heard about the Holy Spirit, right? Everyone hears about it. But when that happened, I was like, oh, that's what that is, right? Like, because it was just some mythical thing
Of course.
that I had read about. But then it happened, and I was just like, this is really interesting. And it'd be one thing to just write off as, oh, that's just some weird thing, weird experience, but it never left me. And the most interesting part, and the part that I kind of like the most, is it was none of my research on these world religions that got me to that answer. Not at all. It was I was very much a skeptic of Christianity prior to that, the second before that happened. It was an instant realization that was not of any of my own work. And what made it so beautiful was that not long after that, I was reading the gospel and I found where Jesus said to Peter, then Simon, Blessed are you, Simon, for flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father in heaven. I was like, that's what that was. And then I also read where he said, knock, and the door will be open to you. Seek, and you will find. And it's just a beautiful thing when you realize that God is true to his word every single time. And it has never left me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You became Catholic.
Yeah, that's another thing.
So
There's another layer to it. It's just,
what happened
wait,
there?
there's more. Yeah. So when I was Protestant, and when I was Protestant, obviously God is all you need, but I did feel some unexplained void in my faith. I didn't know what it was at the time. And I went to Villanova, which is a Catholic institution, and it's so ironic because my first time ever going to a Catholic Mass was the summer after I graduated from Villanova. So never went to Mass when I was at Villanova. I've never been to Mass before, but it was after I graduated from Villanova that I went to Mass for the first time. God doesn't write in straight lines, I guess. But
no.
And I began to...
Tucker's gonna
Any politicians?
Oh, oops. Tucker's gonna convert to Catholicism. Mark my words.
It blesses just one person, then I'll say it here.
Let me see.
You became Catholic.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Oh, right, click to the end.
In straight lines, I guess. But
No.
Here we go.
and I began to really think about my own faith, and I was like, I have this void that I can't explain. How can I be the best Christian I could be? How could I best serve God and serve others? That was the question that made me think about it. And I began to research, but really it wasn't about the research. It was that question, like, where can I be at my best? Where can I serve God and serve others? And when I did study Catholicism and I read the early church fathers and their history and all that stuff, I felt, you know what, this may be for me. And then when I started to partake in the sacraments, the Eucharist, confession, that's when I was like, oh, that's that void. That's when I felt like, okay, I feel fulfilled now. And now it's to the point where, like, if I can't go to Mass on Sunday, I feel empty. If I don't go to confession, I feel like heavy weight on my shoulders.
Yes.
And that's where I was like, this feels like not just speaking about faith, not just having it, but living it. Not just a feeling, but action. And that's when that happened, I was like, this is home.
And has it proven to be what you thought?
Absolutely. More than that. It's the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Tucker's
Second
gonna
to
convert
becoming
to
a Christian in the first
Catholicism.
place. Although that wasn't really a decision, but kind of happened to me. But yeah.
I feel like this is, which is not to detract from your individual experience, but it does seem like part of a trend. I feel like this is not the first time I've heard this story recently.
Yeah. And I think when you speak about men becoming more religious, it's more the traditional churches, right? Catholicism, Orthodoxy. And I think it's because in our society, we're so fed up with modernity and the phones and the technology. And
Yes.
really, it's just not natural. None of it's natural. None of our ancestors had that stuff. So we're feeling that. And we're longing for something that's lasting, something that's,
Kaczynski was right.
feels normal.
Don't ban me on YouTube for saying that. I don't mean it like that.
Now, I'm not
but
saying, and there are people who do this, but
he was right about the post-industrial society. That's all I'm saying. He was right about the post-industrial society and how people were going to convert back to religiosity or become more religious and, or go through mass psychosis. So Kaczynski was right in that regard. I'm not defending his actions. His actions were evil. Thank God he's dead or in prison, whichever one. But I'm just saying some of the things he said happen to be correct. That's it.
I'm not saying that you should join a church just because it's based in trad and all that. No, you should do it because you actually believe in truth and you want to live out that faith and serve others. But that is what's pulling a lot of people more towards that lane. And it's a very good thing because we have too much technology. We have too much modernity and it's kind of repulsive.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying not to jump all over your great story by agreeing with you too much.
Tucker Carlson wants to go back to the feudal system. He's just fantasizing about it.
much, but I do. I'm just going to say that. Sorry, every
funny.
freaking word.
Yeah.
Who do you listen to? Where do you get your information?
So just like everyone in my generation, it's social media.
Yep.
Which is not ideal. I don't want to get it from
No,
there,
I
but it's
agree.
also like, what am I going to do? Like read the newspaper, go on some article? Like I don't want to do that either.
No.
So it's difficult to find somewhere. If I am super interested in one specific news article or topic, then I will like search various sources, try and see what's happening and all that. But for me and for most of my generation, it's social media.
Are there any political figures that you like or identify with or
Fuentes.
think are telling
Say
part
Nick
of the
Fuentes.
truth,
You know he wants to say it.
I appreciate you.
Well, I'm not a political figure.
No,
I'm
I
just
know.
a podcaster.
Oh,
but-
political figure. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't feel represented by anybody.
Yep.
And in terms
Cap,
of political
he's a
commentaries, I don't
groiper.
watch them either.
We know he's a groiper. He is a groiper. Do not lie to us. We know it.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's
I don't know.
He's capping.
it's not my idea of a good time is
Cap.
to watch political commentators.
Cap. He's
Any
capping.
politicians? No, really. That's funny that you feel that way.
You know, I think JD says a lot of good stuff,
Yep.
but I think there's also just a lot of unknowns. And I think once this primary comes up, that we'll learn more. And that's what the primaries, it teaches you about them, who they are, what they
Exactly.
really believe. And
That's the real campaign.
exactly. And so when that happens, I think we'll learn a lot more and we'll be able to make better decisions. But my hope is that we'll see someone who resonates with my generation.
And what's your plan? Would you get into politics?
Well, that's like my mom's worst nightmare for me to do that. Not because she's not supportive, but
No,
just
I
like
get it. No,
it's like, you know, she's seen how toxic and exhausting it is. So it's like,
It's a rough
yeah,
life.
it really is. And so, no, what I would rather have is people do their job,
Right.
not wait for problems to come to them, but really get on top of them. You know, not be so reactionary. I would rather that. But if no one does that, then I don't know, maybe. No one speaks up, no one's saying the things they need to, then, you know, that's not something I'm thinking about right now, but someone has to do it. And so I would rather the people right now in office and our leaders, so-called leaders, do it now. But yeah, someone's going to have to do it because we can't just keep ignoring these problems.
I appreciate your taking this time.
Thank you.
You've given me hope. I will say that. I mean it too. So thank you.
Thank you.
That was a good interview. Very concise. Good work, Tucker. Very good work. Very, 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 very good work. Let's exit out of this. What to say in wrapping up? I mean, he hit all the basic points. Immigration, the economic issues that Gen Z is dealing with. He hit on, what else did he hit on? He hit on the cultural thing. He hit on modernity, men going back to religion, putting America first, assimilate. Yeah, he hit on a lot of things that are really important, I think. I think he hit on a lot of things that are, I mean, just important, like just super important issues in our time. Much credit to him. And yeah, not much else to say, really. We can just end it right there. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you appreciate it. If you did, like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. And before I end this video, once again, last reminder, go ahead and I'm going to leave a link in the description. Go subscribe to my other channel. It's a podcast that I do with my friend Chuck. And we talk about similar things, but it's more of a casual conversational tone. And yeah, so we just started it. It's called The New Consensus, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. Go subscribe, go watch our most recent video. We're going to be putting out another one, if not tonight, tomorrow night. But with that being said, I will catch you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching.